A splash of color interrupted Moyo's day, a vibrant envelope adorned with the golden crest of Kamma Junior School, gleaming like a promise in the sunlight. It was an invitation to the long-awaited college reunion. For a moment, Moyo froze, the memory of lively corridors echoing with laughter and the faint, familiar scent of chalk dust swirling around him. Kamma was more than a school, it was the place where he'd first felt the stirrings of love, where Amina had stolen his heart. Life had since pulled them in different directions, but this reunion carried an air of mystery, a whisper of the past knocking on the door of the present. What awaited him on this unexpected journey back? Amina received her own invitation days later. As a single mother juggling her job and parenting, she had little time for nostalgia. But her son, Jide, convinced her to go. "You deserve a break, Mama," he said. The promise of revisiting the school's lush gardens and reconnecting with old friends tugged at her heart. Little did she know, the reunion would awaken emotions she thought had long faded. The reunion day dawned with the rhythm of African drums filling the air. The school courtyard buzzed with laughter and vibrant fabrics as former students arrived in their best traditional attires. Kent, Ankara, and Aso Oak added a kaleidoscope of colors to the nostalgic setting. The sight of the memory wall, filled with pictures from their junior school days, drew many to laughter and tears. Moyo scanned the crowd, his heart skipping when he saw Amina. Her bright, geli, and radiant smile were just as he remembered. She, too, noticed him, standing tall in a crisp agbada, his face carrying the same warmth she once knew. Their eyes met briefly before they both turned away, unsure of how to bridge the years of silence. Moyo found himself standing by the refreshment table, the aroma of puff-puff and suya mingling in the warm breeze. Amina approached cautiously, her heels clicking against the stone pavement. "Moyo," she said softly. He turned, and for a moment, it felt like they were teenagers again, sharing secrets under the old baobab tree. "Amina," he replied, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. They exchanged pleasantries, the years melting away as they reminisced about school days. Moyo's laugh was as infectious as ever, and Amina's quick wit still left him grinning. As the evening drew on, they couldn't help but wonder if fate had planned at this moment. The memory wall was the highlight of the reunion. Pictures of old classrooms, mischievous pranks, and the school's annual cultural day lined the wooden board. Amina's heart skipped a beat when she saw a photo of her and Moyo, arms around each other, grinning from ear to ear. "We were inseparable," she whispered. Moyo joined her, his gaze softening. "We were happy," he said. The photo stirred memories of their youthful dreams, interrupted by misunderstandings and life's demands. They stood in silence, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. As the evening's activities wound down, the alumni gathered for a toast. Amid the clinking glasses, Mr. Adewale, the reunion organizer, invited everyone to share their fondest school memories. When it was Moyo's turn, he hesitated before raising his glass. "My greatest regret is letting my high school love slip away," he confessed. His eyes briefly met Amina's, her breath catching. The room fell silent. Amina felt her heart race as she processed his words. Could he really mean her? The vulnerability in his voice made her confront feelings she had buried for years. The toast ended with cheers, but for Amina and Moyo, it marked the beginning of an emotional journey. Amid the laughter and dancing, Musa stood quietly by the memory wall. A widower for 3 years, he had come to the reunion hoping to reconnect with friends, not realizing he'd see Chioma, his former girlfriend. She was now a divorced mother, her elegance undiminished by the years. Chioma noticed Musa's lingering gaze. They exchanged hesitant smiles before striking up a conversation. Talking about their youthful dreams and disappointments, they found a surprising sense of comfort. For Musa, the reunion wasn't just about revisiting the past, it was about imagining a new future. The reunion's organizers had planned a scavenger hunt to reignite the playful spirit of their school days. Participants paired up to find clues scattered around the campus. Fate intervened, pairing Moyo and Amina together. Their first clue led them to the school park bench, the very spot where they had first met. Sitting on the bench, they laughed at old jokes and teased each other about their youthful arguments. For a moment, the years melted away, leaving only the spark that had once connected them. But the past was never far behind, and old misunderstandings threatened to resurface. As they searched for the next clue, a casual remark reignited an old wound. "You never trusted me, Moyo," Amina said, her voice laced with pain. Moyo frowned. "And you never gave me a chance to explain," he countered. Their voices grew louder, attracting curious glances from other participants. But amidst the tension, they both realized how much they had missed each other. "I'm tired of fighting," Moyo said finally. Amina nodded, her eyes softening. "Me too." The reunion's cultural night brought everyone to the school's open-air theater. African drums set the stage for traditional dances, and the vibrant energy was infectious. Moyo and Amina found themselves drawn to the dance floor, their movements syncing effortlessly. As they swayed to the rhythm, Moyo whispered, "Do you think we could ever start over?" Amina looked into his eyes, her heart conflicted. The night's magic made everything seem possible, but she knew the real world was far more complicated. The next morning, Moyo and Amina walked through the old school halls, their footsteps echoing against the stone floors. They visited their former classrooms, the library, and the science lab where Moyo had once spilled chemicals during an experiment, earning them both detention. Each room held a memory, some sweet, others bittersweet. As they reflected on their shared past, they began to see how their youthful mistakes had shaped the people they had become. The question lingered, could they build a future together despite their history? During a break between reunion events, Moyo and Amina found themselves seated in the garden where they used to revise for exams. The lush greenery and distant hum of chatter created an atmosphere of intimacy. Moyo smiled, recalling an old promise. "Do you remember when we said we'd open a bookshop together?" Amina laughed, her eyes sparkling. "I remember. We even drew plans for it in your notebook." They both grew quiet, the weight of unfulfilled dreams pressing on them. "Maybe it's not too late," Moyo said softly, his voice full of hope. Amina's heart fluttered, but she remained cautious, unsure if she could trust her emotions. Chioma and Musa decided to take a stroll away from the crowd. Walking under the shade of the school's mango trees, they reminisced about their teenage escapades. Musa shared stories of his late wife, while Chioma opened up about the struggles of raising children alone. Their conversation took a deeper turn as they discussed their dreams for the future. "I've learned that life is too short not to take chances," Musa said, his voice steady. Chioma nodded, her eyes glistening. For the first time in years, she felt the possibility of companionship and happiness. The reunion organizers had arranged a bonfire night, complete with storytelling and traditional songs. The crackling fire illuminated the faces of the attendees as they sat in a circle, sharing tales from their school days. Moyo and Amina sat side by side, the warmth of the fire reflecting the growing warmth between them. When it was Amina's turn to speak, she shared a memory of how Moyo had once defended her from a bully. "He's always been my hero," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Moyo's heart swelled with emotion. The evening's intimacy brought them closer, making them wonder if their rekindled connection could withstand the challenges ahead. Among the reunion souvenirs was an activity that involved writing letters to one's younger self. Amina found herself pouring her heart out, addressing the insecurities and doubts she had carried as a young girl. When she finished, she folded the letter and tucked it into her purse. Moyo, too, wrote a letter, but instead of addressing his younger self, he wrote to Amina. Later that evening, he slipped the letter into her bag, hoping it would convey the depth of his feelings. Amina discovered the letter the next morning, her heart racing as she read his heartfelt words, each line a reflection of the love and regret he had carried for years. Her emotions surged, leaving her unsure of what to feel next. Amina sat on the edge of her bed, Moyo's letter trembling in her hands. His words were raw, honest, and unfiltered. He spoke of his regret, his yearning, and his hope for a second chance. I was too proud to fight for you back then, but I've grown, Amina. I want to try again, if you'll have me, the letter concluded. Her heart swirled with conflicting emotions. She wanted to believe him, but the scars of their past still lingered. Later that morning, she found him near the school garden. I got your letter, she began, her voice steady. And, he asked, a mix of hope and anxiety in his eyes. I'm scared, Moyo, she admitted. But maybe it's worth being scared for. Moyo smiled, a weight lifting off his shoulders. We'll take it one step at a time, he assured her, his hand brushing hers gently. The reunion's last day brought unexpected rain, sending attendees running for shelter. Moyo and Amina found themselves under the same tree where they had shared their first kiss years ago. Rain soaked through their clothes as they laughed at the irony. It's like the universe is trying to remind us of something, Moyo said, his gaze fixed on her. Amina smiled, the rain masking the tears in her eyes. Maybe it's reminding us of what we've always had, she replied. The moment felt like a rebirth. Moyo took her hand, and for the first time in years, Amina felt a sense of peace. As the reunion wrapped up, Moyo and Amina faced the reality of life outside Kamma. Moyo lived in Lagos, while Amina's work and son anchored her in Abuja. Distance doesn't have to be the end, Moyo said as they sat by the fire one last time. Amina hesitated. I need to protect Jide. I can't bring someone into his life unless I'm sure, she said. Moyo nodded, understanding her reservations. Let's start with us, Amina. We'll figure the rest out, he promised. She smiled, hope glimmering in her eyes. Chioma and Musa spent the reunion's final hours reflecting on their renewed connection. Musa took her hand as they walked toward the memory wall. Chioma, life has been harsh to both of us, but we don't have to face it alone anymore, he said earnestly. Chioma smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude and affection. You're right, Musa. Maybe we both deserve a second chance at happiness. As they embraced, it was clear that their reunion wasn't just about revisiting the past but also about building a future together. The alumni gathered for a final group photo, their faces glowing with joy and nostalgia. Moyo stood beside Amina, their hands brushing but not fully clasped. Chioma and Musa smiled from the back row, their renewed bond evident. As the event ended, Moyo walked Amina to her car. This isn't goodbye, he said firmly. It's the beginning. Amina nodded, her heart full but cautious. They exchanged numbers, promising to stay in touch. Chioma and Musa lingered by the school gate, their conversation flowing effortlessly. I'll call you when I get home, Musa said, his tone warm. Chioma grinned. I'll hold you to that. Months after the reunion, Moyo visited Abuja to surprise Amina and meet Jide. The boy took to Moyo instantly, his laughter filling the house. Amina watched the scene unfold, her heart swelling with hope. Chioma and Musa began a quiet courtship, blending their lives with care and intention. Weekend calls turned into visits, and soon, they were inseparable. For all four, the reunion was more than a nostalgic trip, it was a turning point. Love, once thought lost, had been rediscovered, proving that sometimes, the school bench where it all began could lead to a future worth fighting for.